with is the building that's most dear to my heart, which is this one right here, the depot. And so do you remember, did you ever spend, I remember you were telling me about the chickens, Bev.
Yeah, well, I remember when they had the mail came down that track, and Mr. Guth that lived here in Broomfield years ago, he'd be out in the field tending with his horses, and then when he'd hear the whistle, he'd tie up his horses and run all the way from his farm up to grab the mail off when they drop it off of the train. And I don't know how he ever made it all the time, but he picked the mail up every day.
Good exercise.
Oh man, I guess that's a long way. He had a long way to run.
Yeah.
The place isn't there anymore, but that's what he used to do.
And what I remember was the chick story. About, didn't your chicks used to come on the train?
Oh, they did send chickens on the train, the baby chicks. I didn't get any
Oh,
that
okay.
way. I got mine from Denver Serum Company.
Okay, and Mr. Brunner, where did you guys get your chicks from?
That's where we got it from the depot.
Yeah,
From the
he
depot.
got them.
Yeah.
So you would come down to the depot, and that's where you guys would get your chicks for your
Yes,
chickens?
my parents would, yes.
So this is where the depot used to be, if you're familiar. This is what, they moved it to this park in 1976. I took a shot this morning so you could see where it came from if you're not familiar with it. This is what it looks like now. So the foundation for the depot is actually still there. And then this, where my little mouse is right here, this is just burritos. So.
And
this is-
Scotty's.
And Scotty's,
And Great
yeah.
Scots, yes.
So this is the depot as Gib and Bev remembered it as children where its location was, and this is its current location, and Great Scots is right here.
Which
So-
used to be a little cafe called Bleeckers. Remember? Yeah. And then all burnt down. Everything burnt down, and we thought we was going to lose the whole farm because folks had the farm right across the street. So we was all out there trying to make sure to keep it water on it so they didn't burn everything.
So speaking of fires, here again is the depot in its previous location. And you can see the grain elevator right here. And then to the right of it is Jones Hall. And actually, for a year before our depot was built in 1909, Jones Hall served as Broomfield's depot.
And post office.
And post office.
And Buffalo Bill had even stopped to see Mr. Jones quite a few times.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what other thing, do you remember Jones Hall, Mr. Brunner?
Yeah, yes, I remember the Joneses.
They had a pool table there. A lot of guys used to play pool. Upstairs. Mary Matthews was the postmaster for a while there.
And then here's a photo just to give you an idea of what that looks like today. So Jones Hall would have been right here on the right side. But, so do you remember the fire?
Yeah,
That's Jones Hall.
yeah.
Yeah, that was Jones Hall. So what can you tell us about the fire?
I don't know. I thought they set it intentionally. I didn't know it was an accident. I thought they just burned it down as a controlled burn. The way I understood it, I didn't know. If it caught fire, it's something I didn't know. Did you, Renee?
No, I don't recall because I was
Do you?
living in North Denver.
What year was it? This is 1972. So,
Yeah. But I thought it burned on its own. I didn't know. I mean, I don't know.
and now I thought what we could do is show a couple photos of schools. And then I think you guys, if you want to start talking, I'll see if I have photographs. But, so now Bev, you went to, which school did you go to?
I went to the Lorraine School
Okay. So.
for a couple of years, and then I moved over to the Broomfield School because we moved over on the farm.
Okay, I'm wondering if it's easier if you
It's up
stand.
above there, that there. That's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so do you want to stand up?
No.
Okay. So this is the school that Bev originally went to.
Is that one room?
I gotta see if I'm in that one. I don't think I'm in that, and that was older bunch, because I was there when I was really, really tiny. I mean, about first or second grade. I went to school with, I think, you and Jim Thompson.
Yes.
Yeah. And what grade were you in at that school, Gil?
Oh, I can't recall. I went through all the grades.
Oh, I
And
didn't. My folks moved over on the farm, and we went to Broomfield School after I was so old, I forget.
So
Yeah.
where was that school?
119th place, on 100, right in Broomfield, right? Well, let's see.
By the Target.
Well, if you know how you used to go down Old Wadsworth?
No, I've only been here for 6 months.
Well, anyway, it's just right over there on 119th place. My mother and dad had a house right next to it. Yeah.
And Mr. Brunner, stay up there though, Bev. Mr. Brunner, what school did you go to, Gib?
The same school.
You went to Lorraine?
Yes. That was, Lorraine was in Jefferson County, and then the other school was in Boulder County.
Yeah, Broomfield.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's a photo. This is the,
That's my mom's house.
Yeah.
My mother's house. And see, there's the school.
there's a school in the
Right
back.
here. My mother and my dad built that house, and then that was after the farm, after they quit farming. Then they moved up there, and of course I was already grown, had my own kid.
So I'm going to show you now. So I think this is a photo that Bev will really be able to explain to us. So
That's the Broomfield School.
there's the Broomfield School.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's the thing. This is actually, let me take you on a little journey. This is actually the new Broomfield School. This, if you can see, this causes a lot of confusion because this looks like the Lorraine School and it's still around.
Yeah, they moved it.
But all the people in Broomfield, old timers in Broomfield, know how all these new people get this confused, don't they? This is the original Broomfield School. This is actually its second location here, right next to the turnpike. Wait, I'm gonna have you talk as soon as I.
Well, I'm in that man's way over there. He can't see the thing.
Then this is when they moved it, when Mr. Crawford moved it. And this is where it currently sits right now at 11975 Vance Street, except it's not on the back of a truck anymore. So, now that I showed you the old Broomfield School, this is the new Broomfield School, which existed from 1921 to 1958, and then here's where Bev's gonna get it all excited.
Oh yeah, it takes gonna take more than an old school.
Okay, Bev, so
Yeah,
why
here.
don't you show us where
Okay.
you are?
Here I am right here, and here's my brother, and here's
My dad.
her dad.
What year
And,
would that have been?
Huh?
What year would that have been?
I don't know, what does it say on there? I was
I'm not sure it has the date on it.
1970. That's what this says. I think that says 70, doesn't it?
I don't think it was 1970.
No.
What's it say on that little plaque underneath?
It actually doesn't tell us. It doesn't have the date.
How old was your dad?
I don't know how old he was. I looked like I was probably in fourth grade, maybe third.
Because my dad, I think, was in first grade.
Was he? Yeah.
So if he was in first grade,
Then he was a little older, I think, I think your dad was a little older than me. So maybe I was in the second grade. I don't know what grade I was in. I know I graduated
So
eighth
that's
grade.
1935, 36?
Yeah.
So this is 1935, 36. We actually have the photo on the carousel, so if you want to
Yeah.
see if there's any bonds in it afterwards, you're welcome to.
And they had 2 rooms. And Mrs. Penn, she used to come early. That's her, that was her, whoops.
So,
That was her there. Isn't she a beauty? She would come every morning early and stoke the furnace because it was all coal. And not very many teachers nowadays have to build their own fire and keep the school warm, and she always did. And then we graduated from 8th grade was as far as it went. And that was right across from her grandparents' house.
I went to that school to third grade.
Did you? Okay.
Wow.
That was, you was way after me, 'cause you're a baby.
Right.
Was there, I think you gave me some, Pam and you gave me some photographs.
Yeah, that's my house, that's my house that I used to live in when I was first married, and there's one of my cars, and I don't know whose that is. I still got that house. The renters have kind of totaled it, but that's what you expect from renters.
Where is it?
120th and, do you know where the State Patrol? It's right up the street on the same side of the road. There's a woodworking shop there, and that's my building, and then the house sits right next to it. And then there's another house sits next to this house over here. You can just kind of see it, and that's my house too. Renters are totaling that too.
So you said the Colorado State Patrol.
Yeah, right there, right here. And my place is right up the road, this road.
And so what did this building used to be?
There was a garage there and a bank, I think. Didn't it, Gib?
Uh,
There was a bank. It was a bank at one time there, right there somewhere.
Well, no, the bank was up by Huttersmore. That was Shaw
Garage?
Garage,
Okay.
my uncle.
Oh, okay. Bob. Wasn't it
No.
Bob? Ed, Bob, what was his name? Shaw? Bob Shaw?
No, not Bob Shaw.
I don't remember. I remember him, but I can't remember his name.
So Gib was just saying this was his uncle's garage before it was the highway patrol. Before it was the highway patrol. I wanted to ask you both if you remembered when they moved the depot here.
Well, I remember, but I was working out of the telephone company in North Denver, so I wasn't present when it was moved, but I know it was moved.
Mm-hmm. Bev, did you see him move the depot down 287?
No, I didn't watch him do it. I cried a lot.
You did.
Well, I don't think they should keep jacking around with all the old stuff. I think they should leave it in its original, but what do I know? I didn't think they should tore down the old telephone building, but they did. I thought that was it was built in 1921, and instead of, putting some kind of not real estate, but maybe Broomfield information or something. Why couldn't they have utilized it, instead of tearing it down? That was a landmark. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah,
It's very unique.
but they didn't. And I tried to tell the Broomfield fathers. I wrote letters and talked and everything, but it didn't do any good. If you don't have pull, you don't have anything.
So, Mr. Brunner, did you work in this telephone building?
Yes. Well, I worked outside, but I wasn't an inside employee. I worked outside.
A man by the
A
name of
repairman and star.
George Sleppy from Lafayette was a big shot over all the guys that worked on the lines and stuff up there.
Now, I'm going to put this out for public information, but can you tell us how you got your telephone number?
Yeah, they said to me, when I didn't have a phone. We never had a phone because my folks were so poor. It was like church mice. So Mrs. Manus asked me, she was the boss at the telephone office, and she asked me if I'd like to come to work down there. And I said, oh, I'd be tickled to death because we didn't have anything anyway. So I thought, well, she said, you got to have a phone before you can work here because I got to be able to get a hold of you whenever I have to get a hold of you. And I said, great. So I got the phone, and they said, what number do you want? And I told them what I wanted, and that's the number I got, and I still got it. And I worked there for 10 years until it came to a point where I had to stop because of my daughter. I had a daughter that had to take back and forth to Denver to preschool because she was deaf. That's her right there. And that ended my telephone, and I hated that because that was the best job I ever had. But I didn't have a choice.
Do what you gotta do.
I did what I had to do, so I lost a good pension by not being able to stay there till I retired,
And
Yeah.
and
Where
Miss
was this located?
120th and Lowell.
120th and Lowell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right on the corner. It was there. There's a big sign now that says, "Welcome to Broomfield." That's where it was.
Yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah.
And Mr. Brunner, how about your phone number?
Well, it's a mile high.
So tell, what's you got? They won't call you. What's your phone number?
5280.
So they asked you what phone number you wanted, and
No.
you. Oh,
It was given to me.
they gave it to you.
Then my neighbor, Captain and Bob Harding, lived next to me on that way. One day she said, well, Captain said, well, your telephone number is easy to remember. And I said, well, well, that's a mile high. So 5280.
I think I would remember my number if it was 5280.
Mine's as easy.
And I got a friend who'd like to have that number. She wants to have Mile High Realty.
Yeah. There you go.
What's that number? Can I ask Bev
Real
something?
Yes, please do.
Bev, now on the numbers, I remember our phone number from years ago.
72R3 and
73J5 was
yeah,
mine.
yeah.
And
Mine was 22J2.
so they had like a
Number.
alphabet number.
Yeah, and on the switchboard you turned it if you're on the J side or the R side. You flipped the switch.
That's what I wondered about.
Yeah, yeah. And you always had to dial Denver numbers for everybody because that was a toll. You had to pay a toll to call Denver.
Huh.
And we had to dial all the Denver numbers for the people.
Now the party lines, I think there were 3 or 4, I think, we had a party
Yeah,
line.
yeah. So did everybody, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Do you remember Flint, Mr. Flint?
Oh, yes.
That lived up here on the hill by the airport. I was working the day that he died, and his wife called, and she was deaf, and she couldn't talk. And I kept saying, "Number, please," and she kept screaming. All she did is scream in the phone. And I told Manus, my boss, I said, "Something's wrong because Mrs. Flint can't tell me." So they went up to find out, and he'd died. So that was ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor lady.
And I personally wanted to ask Bev and Gib this question. We have a WPA outhouse just like this one.
Oh, we don't talk about that.
No, I want to know because we have an outhouse just like that out here. And what I know is that during the Great Depression, they built 10,000 of these. The Works Progress Administration built 10,000 of these in Colorado. And they also built them here in Broomfield. And so I wanted to ask you if either of you remember any of the men in Broomfield working on building these outhouses. Do you remember that?
No.
I remember the outhouse because we had one.
We even had one in Iowa.
Yeah.
But did you have a
Yeah.
WPA built outhouse?
No, mine was hooked.
Did.
Yes, I did.
Did you? Mine was hooked onto the chicken house. Yeah, yours was too. Yeah. So, you always, when you went out to the outhouse, you always could sit there and listen to the chickens. It was really exciting. And then I had a brother that was afraid of the dark. And so my mother used to make me go out and walk out with him. I just stand out there, and wait on him.
Do you know a senior in 1963 when I graduated, the senior class, the boys went and got one of these outhouses and put it right on the front of the school, on top, on the roof. And we almost all didn't graduate until somebody finally admitted putting that outhouse on top of the school, but it was just like this.
We used to tip them over on Halloween.
Did you do that, Gib?
No, I never did
Gib
that.
didn't do that.
You didn't remember, didn't you remember Mr. Ross? He'd sit up all night to guard his.
Oh,
They'd always get him though. He couldn't stay awake long enough to keep it protected.
Now, how about what happened when they put this in, Bev? How did life change when
Oh,
they put that in?
Well, I had a horse. We used to have a horse. That's when I lived in the little house I was showing you, that I showed you where I used to live. And this stupid horse was wild, kinda. And it kept getting out, and it'd get up on the toll road, back and forth in the gate, you know, run your bill up. I mean, they was gonna charge me for a toll for my darn horse. Had to go up in the airport place where it wasn't an airport at the time. We'd have to get a chain and catch it in the corner to catch that horse. But he'd do that all the time, that stupid horse. Drive you nuts. You think?
So how did the 36, the toll road, change your life, Gib?
Oh,
Or what did it do to Broomfield?
it helped, well, at the time, it helped a lot. I mean, in development and the like, the traffic between Boulder and Denver, well, the whole area.
Didn't help me. I thought it was a pain. You had to pay every time you got on it, and you could go the old Boulder Road just as fast. You know, and now when they think about charging again, it just irritates me because they said that when it was paid off, they were going to take the toll off, and they did. That was good. Now they think about putting another toll back on. I mean, come on.
Now here's another building that's still in that old part of Broomfield. Mr. Brunner, this building's pretty dear to you.
Yes, my parents met there, and later got married. Well, if they were my parents, they got married. But anyway,
I'm gonna get it.
they were in the,
No.
they were working on restoring that. It's got lead paint on it, so it all has to be taken care of with so they take care of the lead paint.
So this is the Grange and
Crescent Range.
the Crescent Grange, and it was really
136.
important in Broomfield's history. It also even at one time.
Excuse me, I have a picture of it right here.
Yeah.
The Grange had their own insurance too, and a lot of the farmers took up their insurance. That's the only insurance they had,
This is a picture of that.
the Grange insurance.
Mr. Brunner, could we pass that picture around?
Yes,
I passed
Like
one
see
of
it?
it on, started.
excuse me.
What was the purpose of the change?
Okay.
It was a farmer's oriented.
I've heard the term, but I couldn't
Yes.
Okay.
recall what.
So we have two questions. Do you know why it was called the Crescent Grange?
No, I do not.
How about Tom Kellogg back there from the Grange? Do you know why it's called the Crescent Grange?
No, they just assigned names to each of the granges, and I don't know why they got that name.
Do you know, Renee?
I don't.
Okay.
Don't.
So the Grange was an organization for farmers, and it was a fraternal organization. They would self-insure themselves. It was a social organization, an educational organization, and a really key part it played, and this has to do with our depot, is the Grange was an organization that allowed farmers to basically band together to work, let's say, I'll use the word work with the railroad. Because farmers were really independent business people and they were at the mercy of these big railroads. And by being in organizations like the Grange, it allowed them to collaboratively work together so that basically they could, I'm trying to look for the word, with the railroad.
Negotiate?
Negotiate, yeah. So they could negotiate and really stand up for the farmers. Against some, especially the large railroad corporations. So the Grange had lots of purposes, and it was very social. And did you ever go to dances at the Grange?
Oh
or-
my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Every Saturday night, it was a ritual.
Yeah.
Boy, and I tell you, we had so much fun. They used to square dance a lot in those days. We had to square dance, and oh, it was so much fun. I loved it.
square dance in the Grange.
Huh?
I even square dance.
Did you?
Yes,
Man.
I did. A little bit later than you. I did.
It was fun. It was really fun.
And
Yeah.
if you're interested, the Grange is still active and is really being reborn. Tom, could you raise your hand? If you're interested in learning how to become a Granger, you can see Tom back there. And we're really excited. The Depot Museum is actually, we're collaborating with the Grange because we'll be closing this summer during the restoration. And we're gonna be holding, speakers, on the first Wednesday of the month at the Grange. The Depot and the Grange together are collaborating, and we're gonna talk about coal mining in the area. We're gonna talk about the railroads, and we're gonna talk about the farmers and agricultural life in Broomfield, and that'll be the first Wednesday of the month starting in May.
Great.
Bev,
Yeah.
I think you were telling me
Oh,
about
Barber's,
this.
yeah.
Could you tell everybody what this was?
That's Barber's Poultry. They were here for a long, long time, and then they bowed down and sold out to Walmart. And so, but Paula, Russell's dead. Paula's still alive. She was in a home the last I heard. Her kids live on her house up there on the hill. Right as you go around the corner there toward on Federal. And they had the best turkeys. I'd get my turkey there every Thanksgiving because you could get fresh.
They were still here when I moved here in '63.
Yeah. I hated to see them go, but they got run out of town.
So, did anybody have, if you have a question that you wanted to ask either Gib or Bev, this is a great
Or
chance.
Renee. She
Or
knows
Ren-
as much as
Oh,
I do.
actually, let me
Yeah.
show this photo. 'Cause
Yeah.
Then we'll introduce Renee to everybody.
Yeah.
This is a good way to introduce Renee and Gib at the same time because Gib, tell us about what this house is.
That was my grandparents. When they moved from Kansas, they bought some property at 120th between Sheridan and that's where the house that my grandparents lived there. And later, after my grandparents passed away, my parents lived there.
So when you see this yellow house that we call the Brunner house, it was Gib's grandparents' house. And then later his parents' house. And my understanding is it's a Sears kit house. Is that true? A Sears kit house? Did this come from
Well,
Sears?
they never proved that.
Oh, they
We
didn't prove
tried,
that.
But,
could not prove it.
If
Jackie.
it,
We didn't.
they,
Okay.
they,
don't think it
they
is.
think it is,
They think it is.
yeah.
Okay.
So now it's located up at Midway and Main Street.
So they moved it up to Midway and Main Street. And so, Bev, if you don't mind staying there, I'm going to have, can we scoot over and have Renee stand next to you?
Yeah, come up here, Renee.
Because the reason I'm going to have Renee stand there with you is just to make it confusing, they moved the Brunner house to the farm on top of what used to be Renee's family's farm. So that wasn't Renee's house,
No.
but it's on what used to be your land, right?
Right, and that house actually sits where our barn was. And the house was closer to Main Street, but the driveway that you use to get to this house is the same driveway that we used for my grandma's house in the front. And then right where this house is the barn. There was also a silo there, and they did a controlled burn, didn't they? Was Bert, your
Yeah,
brother?
yeah.
They did a controlled burn on the barn. They burnt the barn down
Yeah.
after, while when my grandmother passed away, they still had some pretty good inheritance taxes. So they actually sold the land, and then my parents moved into Broomfield. But I grew up on this property, which is why I'm so excited that there is a rose garden named after my grandmother. It's actually called the Cozy Sack Rose Memorial or Rose Garden. But my grandma Cozy Sack was one of them that founded the garden club and did all that kind of thing. So our family takes care of this, and we actually said we'd take care of it till there's none of us left. So every spring we cut the roses, we plant new ones, we make all the grandkids now, the Clove kids. Anybody that knew the dentist, Mr. Clove. My daughter married a Clove, so now we have the Clove, the Cozy Sack, and I mean, we've all, and the letter K is pretty important to us, but in fact, we're planning the week before Mother's Day, we'll be up there, we'll cut all the roses down, plant the ones that have died, and redo it, and it'll all be ready to go for everybody to enjoy, which Mr. Brunner, when his lovely wife passed away, they had a memorial up there, and the rose garden was in full bloom, and it made me feel really good that we had taken such good care of it, and it was a wonderful memorial for your wife, sir. So.
Yeah, and tell Dale Marie, his brother and his wife lived in it for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dale and Marita lived
Yeah.
there. Also, the house that I actually lived in as a kid, also, Mr. Brunner, Gib Brunner, you lived in that house at one point, that little house on the corner. And we've been trying to find some
Correct.
pictures of it. I don't have any pictures of it. I'm going through my mother, who just passed away a year ago.
Yeah.
We've been going through pictures and trying to sort through, which, by the way, I've got some great pictures of this gal being a telephone operator. I'll make sure she gets them.
Oh, that's
Yeah, they're really
exciting.
good.
Yeah.
You're like long hair, all duded up.
Oh, brother.
Red lipstick. I mean, she looks great. Of course, I can't tell they're black and white, so I don't know.
Oh, good.
So anyway, but it's a joy to be a part of Broomfield, and I'm just so excited that you are having things like this, so that we can pass on some of this information to some of the people that don't know. And I, for one, would love to be a member of the Grange. My grandmother was, and I never knew that you could still belong to that Grange. So I'll pass the word, and we'll get a bunch of people up there for you.
Official grades or?
How is this house? Clyde Brunner was the first mayor, right?
Who?
No,
No,
he was second.
second mayor, right.
Now, did he live in this house?
He was
Clyde?
born in that house.
He was
Yeah.
born in that.
Right.
Yes.
Where's that located?
This
It's,
Midway made now.
it's now in what we call the field open space. So it's right behind the city and county building.
By the golf course,
By the
kind of.
golf course.
Right by the golf
You
course.
can see if you go down Main Street, you hit Midway, just look to your right, going north, and it's right there.
Well, I'm not sure if this is a good theme for me to bring up as a city employee, but we see the fire department is not the city, but it seems like they burn a lot of buildings.
10-4.
And Bev, you gave us this photo. So I
Yeah,
was-
that was down on 120th, down across from, it used to be the Rendezvous Bar, and now it's the Old Man. And that's a control burn, they did.
practicing so they
Yeah.
What?
can save us.
Please explain controlled burn.
They started on fire.
They just
They
started,
started
So
to,
they can
Practice.
Fires in old structures.
so that way if anybody's in there dying, they
They
go
can
in and
save
take
you.
them out.
Well, sometimes they do it to make room for the road too,
Yeah.
to give you a little.
They're-
more
They do
space.
everything to make room for roads, believe me. I got a piece of property that they want to take some of it.
yes, they do.
I know, and I'm irritated about it.
So they do these to practice so that they can really save lives.
Well, Bev's brother, Bert, was a real big wheel with the fire department, right, ma'am?
Lieutenant.
Lieutenant in the fire department. We tried to get him to come, but he's on
Oh,
oxygen. He wouldn't
yeah.
come
He's a wimp.
today. So,
He doesn't want anybody to see him on oxygen because they just started just put him on oxygen. So I think he's embarrassed. And I said, "Are you going to be a wallflower all your life just because you're on oxygen?" Well, I probably will be.
and by the way, it's her twin brother.
Yeah.
And I just have to show you, he's here in this photo, and we took the photo out of here to take it, so we were kind of covering him, but Bev, doesn't your brother still
Yes.
wear the exact same
Still
clothes?
wears those bibby overalls.
Yep.
He came in here a couple months ago and walked right up to the photo and said, "That's me," and I could tell you, we all would have picked him right out
Right
right
out.
away, because he looks exactly the same
Yeah.
90 years later.
Yeah, he still does.
All right. Are you ready?
Great. So, were there any more questions?
More stuff than I do.
Okay, I think what we'll do is, Mr. Brunner, would you like to share a couple of your things?
I don't have
And
to
then
check.
we'll let everybody
Jail.
ask you and Bev questions. Does that work?
Okay, let's see.
Okay.
As you see the date on here, this is a photo, aerial photo of July of the 22nd, 1937. And if you get a microscope, you can pick out, I haven't marked on it yet, places. This is where we farmed. This is Old Wadsworth, and this is where we dairy farmed there. And that's south. We dairied there. We we farmed this property here, and on this side of Wadsworth, and then we had property on the east side, and we had a reservoir which was there, and we did irrigation, and they didn't quite get. Let's see. So this is Allison Street, and here's the Methodist Church right up here. The Sars lived there, and then I didn't mark on the picture, but the grain elevators are here and there, and Broomfield lumber. Like I say, I didn't mark on it, so take me a little time to pick it out. And then up here was a beet dump.
A beet
Right,
dump,
a beet dump.
sugar beet dump.
Sugar beets. They raise a lot of sugar beets around here. And we do have a not a microscope. We got to look at that.
Oh,
And
magnifying glass.
this, like I say, it was 7th month, July, and these out here, these are fields of grain. It's been alfalfa or other grains that are been raked, and so that's why they're in rows like that. They're ready to be baled or stacked. And that's the same way with this here. That's field of grain that's ready to be processed. So,
Mr. Brunner, do you ever remember them growing broom corn?
No,
No.
I don't.
I don't.
I don't either. I remember the pickle factory that was here. We used to go up there, and that was right there by where the big,
Yeah, Cooner Emerson, they had a, well, like I say, I have marked my account. I got the photo, and then City of Broomfield enlarged it for me. And so I have to, so they,
So this is where the depot would have sat, right?
correct,
Okay, so the depot sits here, then the little rental sits here, then the Grange sits here, or
Correct.
the State Patrol sits here,
yes.
or the Grange sits here.
In that area,
You go all
yes.
the way up a little farther, are the 3 pieces of property my mom was telling you about she still owns.
Okay,
And so that kind of gives you an idea of where the depot was, which was right here
mm-hmm.
on that picture.
So you can, well, like to say that, like I say, this only goes to Emerald Street on that side of which.
we had 3 lakes in Broomfield, where Broomfield was built. We had 3 good lakes, and we used to could swim. And oh man, we used to, and we ice skated on one that was on your folks' place, right across where we lived. And then when they built the town, they just done away with all the lakes. And they were some good lakes.
So, Mr. Brunner, would you mind staying here? If we could wrap up with maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and then I was hoping you would stay here, and could people come up and ask you
Oh, yeah,
questions
yes.
about your things, and you could show them? People might have questions about things on the map, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, what I was gonna say, right, this is Emerald Lane, and they didn't get further enough east. But Emerald Lane at one time had trees all the way, and that's where Emerald School down below. And the people named it Goose. I'm thinking of Goose.
No, that wasn't. Goose lived down a long lane,
Yes.
down off of 2.
And he
120.
worked at Coors.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was Goose. It's down where the Emerald School is now. But they didn't quite get far enough. It was all lined with trees all the way down.
yeah.
All right.
One of these days I'm gonna get another picture
Yeah.
further south,
That'll
I
be-
hope.
Oh, that'll be great. So did anybody have maybe one, do we have one or two last questions?
Bev, I know your brother Bert, I've known him for a
Oh, you
handful of
poor
years.
thing. No, I'm kidding.
And he used to tell me.
Who are
stories-
you?
Well, I'm a friend of Gibbs and Bert's, and I just know him through the town here locally.
Okay.
But Bert used to tell me some stories about riding a pony over to the schoolhouse.
Yeah, we did.
To put coal in the stove.
Yeah.
Told me he used to steal pickles now and again.
He steal what?
Pickles.
Oh, I don't know if we ever got any, but I knew that we used to play up there when the pickle factory was here. It was right up there by the grain elevators.
Well, it's more exciting the way he told the story.
Yeah, I don't remember stealing any pickles, but
He also mentioned that he used to, I guess him and his dad used to take the wagon down to Rock Creek Farms down here, down the hill, and they used to haul water back up.
yeah, we had to bring water because we had water out of a cistern. We'd bring water in this big tank. They'd pull it with a pickup, bring it up and fill up the cistern. And that was ugly.
So at the time then, is that where most of the drinkable water came from?
That's all we had.
So-
But other people had wells. But we had a well, but it was hard water, and nobody ever decided to get it tested to see if we could use it. It was a good deep well. It was hard water, but we'd rather drink out of this dirty old cistern.
So the depot also had a cistern, and they didn't have a well, and so to get water for the depot never had running water. You'll see a sink in the kitchen, but the depot actually never had running water in it. And so the families, like the Vaughns, the train would actually bring the water in and put it in the cistern. And then what I've heard, read in records, like letters from your Aunt Maxine, was it your aunt? The kids used to go outside to the cistern and get the water and bring it in. Mr. Brunner, did you guys have a well?
Yes, we had a well. 'Cause we needed water for our cattle. We dairied. We had a gasoline pump. We had a tower, and so we had gravity feed to the out to the faucets and the like.
Great. Okay. Did we have one more question, maybe? Another question? All right. Now, Renee and Gib, Bev, would you mind staying here so that people can ask questions?